Not every lake is a place to relax. Some are dark, cold, and filled with stories of things that should have stayed hidden. Fishermen vanish without a trace. Swimmers feel icy hands pulling them under. And sometimes, the water calls you by name, luring you deeper into the unknown. Before we dive into these bone-chilling lake stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. You don't want to miss what's coming next. These waters run deeper than they seem. Lake Grayson is known for its deep waters and strange reputation. It's a popular summer spot, but locals warn visitors never swim past the floating buoys. No one knows how deep the lake goes, and some say it connects to underwater caverns that have never been mapped out. One summer, Jenny and her friends ignored those warnings. It was a hot, sunny day, and the group decided to swim out past the marked area. Jenny, being the fastest swimmer, reached the farthest point first. She laughed, waving back at her friends near the shore. Suddenly, her smile faded. Her body went stiff, like something had brushed against her underwater. Before anyone could react, Jenny let out a small gasp and was yanked beneath the surface so fast that the water barely rippled. Her friends panicked, diving in one by one to search for her. They swam until their lungs burned, but the water was too dark and cold, even under the bright sun. They only found Jenny's floating lantern drifting on the surface. A search team combed the lake for days, dragging nets along the bottom. They found Jenny a week later floating near the shore, pale and lifeless. Her legs were covered in long, thin scratches as if something with claws had grabbed her. What haunts the friends to this day is the look on Jenny's face, her eyes wide open, as if she'd seen something no human should ever see. People still swim at Lake Grayson, but no one ever ventures past the buoys anymore. Old Mr. Henry was a legend around Pine Hollow Lake. He'd been fishing the lake every weekend for decades, rain or shine. He knew every part of the shoreline, every hidden cove, and every fishing spot where the trout liked to bite. But one winter morning, Mr. Henry didn't come home. His boat was found drifting quietly near the middle of the lake, perfectly upright. His fishing rod was still set, with a fresh worm on the hook. The small lunch he had packed remained untouched, and his life jacket lay neatly folded on the seat. At first, people assumed he had fallen into the cold water and drowned. But when divers searched the lake, they found nothing, not a single trace of Mr. Henry's body. His friends said it didn't make sense. He was an experienced fisherman who never took risks, and the weather that day had been calm. After his disappearance, strange reports began to surface, as several fishermen claimed they heard the sound of Mr. Henry's voice while out on the lake, calling for help from the water. Some even saw his boat gliding across the lake at night, as if someone invisible was steering it. When they tried to follow it, the boat always disappeared into the mist. The legend of Mr. Henry grew, with people saying that the lake had taken him. They say that if you hear someone calling your name while fishing at Pine Hollow Lake, you should leave immediately, because if you answer, you might be the next one to disappear. Shadow Lake is beautiful during the day, with clear water and tall pines reflecting off the surface. But locals know better than to stay there after dark. They say the lake has a voice, a haunting, lilting song that drifts over the water, calling to anyone foolish enough to listen. A young couple named Tom and Sarah learned this the hard way. They had planned a romantic camping trip by the lake, completely unaware of the old stories. On the first night, everything seemed perfect until the sun went down and the forest grew eerily silent. As they sat by the campfire, Sarah heard it first, a soft humming sound floating across the water. It sounded almost human, like a woman's lullaby. At first, it was soothing, and Sarah felt herself drawn toward the shore, as if in a trance. But as the humming grew louder, the melody began to twist. It sounded wrong. Tom shook her out of it, but now he heard the voice to accept it wasn't coming from the lake anymore. It was coming from the forest just behind their tent. They spun around, shining their flashlight into the trees, but found nothing. The voice grew louder, now a whisper. "Come closer, I'm waiting." Panicked, the couple threw their things into their car and drove off, leaving their tent and camp behind. They didn't stop until they reached the next town. When they told a local what had happened, the man's face grew pale. He explained that years ago, a woman had drowned in Shadow Lake. People say her spirit lingers, calling out to anyone who stays too long by the water. Some think she's lonely. Others believe she's looking for someone to take her place. This day, visitors who camp by Shadow Lake report hearing the same eerie song, and many leave in the middle of the night, too terrified to stay. Lakes are supposed to be places of peace and quiet, but some waters hide stories best left untold. If you ever find yourself near a lake after dark and hear someone calling your name or a soft song drifting on the wind, walk away. And whatever you do, don't follow the voice. If you enjoyed these creepy lake stories, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. Thanks for watching, and remember, some waters are better left unexplored.